They told you Southern food was invented by cowboys and plantation owners, that it was comfort food. That's a lie. The story of Southern cooking is a story of survival. It was built on scraps, sweat, and memory. Every bite of mac and cheese, every scoop of gumbo, every piece of fried chicken you've ever eaten is a map of the African diaspora. They tried to erase the hands that built this kitchen. They sanitized the recipes and whitewashed the history. But the flavor never forgot where it came from. In the next 17 minutes, we're going to uncover the African-American meals that didn't just shape Southern culture. They saved it. We love to say the South has the best food in America, but we rarely ask who built that kitchen. From gumbo to cornbread, the real flavor came from the hands of African cooks who mixed survival, memory, and genius into every bite. This isn't about recipes. This is about resilience. This is about people who were robbed of everything: their freedom, their families, their names. But who held on to their culture through food? And those ingredients, they built an empire. They fed a nation. They created what we now call Southern cuisine. So let's set the record straight. Southern food is African-American food, always has been. The roots. Imagine being forced thousands of miles away, but carrying your recipes in your memory. Enslaved Africans didn't just bring bodies to America, they brought taste, they brought knowledge, they brought culture that would survive centuries of oppression. Some hid seeds in their hair, some memorized recipes passed down through generations, some carried agricultural knowledge that would literally build Southern wealth. Okra stews from West Africa became gumbo in Louisiana. Rice-growing knowledge from Sierra Leone built South Carolina's low-country economy. African yams transformed into sweet potato traditions. That's not coincidence. That's not cultural exchange. That's culture surviving under impossible conditions. Food historian Michael Twitty calls it the cooking gene, the DNA of flavor that couldn't be erased no matter how hard they tried. In plantation kitchens, enslaved cooks were given the scraps, the parts white families didn't want, the cheapest ingredients, and they turned those scraps into the most flavorful food in America. They turned necessity into soul food. Fried chicken. Let's start with the most iconic, fried chicken. The story they tell? Scottish immigrants brought frying techniques to America. The truth? They brought the frying method, but African cooks brought the flavor. West African cuisine had been using complex spice blends for centuries: palm oil frying, marination techniques, seasoning that made food sing. So when they encountered Scottish frying, they took it and made it better. They added pepper, paprika, garlic. They marinated for hours. They turned bland into brilliant. And fried chicken became more than food. It was Sunday dinner after church. It was celebration. It was community. Those hand-seasoned chicken with soul long before fast food chains made billions from it. And they never saw a dime. But in black homes across America, the real recipe survived. The one that takes time. The one that tastes like love. Red rice. You ever notice that Southern red rice tastes suspiciously like jollof? That's not a coincidence. That's ancestry. The Gullah Geechee people of the South Carolina and Georgia Sea Islands were isolated enough to preserve direct African traditions. Their food is the clearest link to West African cuisine still alive in America. Enslaved people from the rice coast of West Africa, Senegal, Gambia, Sierra Leone brought complete rice-growing knowledge. They knew how to plant it, harvest it, cook it. South Carolina's entire rice industry built on that knowledge. Enslaved expertise made white plantation owners rich. And the red rice they cooked for themselves? Tomatoes, peppers, rice, and memories of home. It's jollof rice, adapted to new ingredients but keeping the soul. Red in West African culture symbolizes life, celebration, ancestors. Every pot of red rice was a prayer, a remembrance, a refusal to forget. Collard greens. Now let's talk about greens. Enslaved cooks were often given the parts white families didn't want. Collard greens, turnip greens, mustard greens, considered trash. But here's what they knew. Those scraps were nutritional powerhouses, packed with vitamins, iron, calcium, and in skilled hands, absolutely delicious. You slow cook them with smoked meat, usually ham hock or fatback. You add vinegar for brightness. You season with black pepper, and you wait. You let time do what time does. And that liquid left over? Pot liquor. That's liquid gold. Vitamins, minerals, flavor. They'd soak cornbread in it. Nothing went to waste. collard greens also became symbolic. Eat them on New Year's for prosperity because greens look like money. That's not superstition. That's hope. That's believing in better days. Greens weren't scraps. They were strategy. When you had nothing but leaves and a ham bone, you made a feast. You made soul food. Sweet potatoes. And finally, sweet potatoes. Or as we know them on Thanksgiving, candied yams. In West Africa, yams were sacred. Central to cuisine, culture, and celebrations, there were yam festivals. Yams symbolized abundance. But African yams don't grow well in America's climate. So enslaved cooks had to adapt. They found sweet potatoes. Similar texture, similar versatility. Not the same, but close enough to carry the memory forward. And they applied West African cooking techniques. Roasting, boiling, mashing, adding spices and sweetness, candied yams, sweet potatoes with butter, brown sugar, cinnamon, sometimes marshmallows, became a holiday staple, a way to turn humble ingredients into celebration. Every Thanksgiving when you eat candied yams, you're eating a dish that traveled from West African yam festivals to American holiday tables. Adapted, but not forgotten. 4 dishes: fried chicken, red rice, collard greens, sweet potatoes. Each one a story of survival, adaptation, and genius. Each one a piece of African culture preserved on American plates. After emancipation, black cooks didn't stop cooking, they went professional. They opened hotels, ran railroad dining cars, started catering businesses, built the first black-owned restaurants in the South. Railroad dining cars were particularly significant. Black chefs traveled the country, bringing Southern flavors everywhere the trains went. They literally spread the taste of the South from coast to coast. Let me tell you about James Hemings. He was Thomas Jefferson's enslaved chef. Jefferson took him to France, had him trained in French cuisine. Hemings came back and created what we know as mac and cheese, combining French technique with American ingredients. That dish Jefferson gets credit for? That was James Hemings' genius. Fast forward to the 20th century. Edna Lewis. She turned country cooking into fine dining. She wrote cookbooks that finally credited the tradition properly. She said, "This is African-American food and it deserves respect." Here's the ripple effect. Black cooks created Southern cuisine. Southern cuisine became American comfort food. American comfort food influenced global food culture. Now you can get fried chicken in Tokyo, collard greens in Paris, mac and cheese in London. The flavors that enslaved cooks created to survive, they conquered the world. But for most of history, the credit went elsewhere. If you're liking this content and you want to help us keep uncovering stories like this, please leave a subscribe. It really helps us keep going. These stories deserve to be told. The erasure and revival. For decades, white cookbook authors took black recipes, called them Southern traditions, and never mentioned who actually created them. Recipes that had been passed down orally in black families for generations suddenly appeared in cookbooks with no attribution. Just traditional Southern recipe. The pattern continued in restaurants. Black chefs worked in the back. White owners took credit in the front. Black innovation made white fortunes. The term Southern food itself became a way to erase black origins. It sounds regional, not racial. It sounds like geography, not history. But it's always been about who gets credit for the genius. But today, the tide is turning. Black chefs are reclaiming the narrative. Mashama Bailey runs The Gray in Savannah, a James Beard Award-winning restaurant celebrating Gullah Geechee foodways. She's not hiding the roots. She's centering them. Bryant Terry writes cookbooks that explicitly connect African, Caribbean, and African American cuisines. He's teaching the next generation where their food comes from. Michael Twitty literally wrote the book on this, The Cooking Gene. He's traveling to plantations, researching archives, and telling the complete story. And on social media, younger generations are learning and sharing these stories. They're saying, "This is our heritage. This is our genius. We're not letting it be erased anymore." Black-owned soul food restaurants are thriving because people finally understand. This isn't generic Southern food. This is African-American cuisine, and it deserves to be credited, celebrated, and compensated properly. The message is simple. Southern food is black food. Always has been. Let's bring it home. Every meal tells a story, and in the South, those stories are written in spice, sweat, and memory. From plantation kitchens where they had nothing but scraps and genius, to family tables where those recipes are honored and passed down, to restaurants where black chefs finally get the credit they deserve. Food was never just food, it was resistance, it was culture, it was Africa refusing to die on American soil. Every time you season that chicken, every time you cook those greens, every time you make mac and cheese with love and time and patience, you're honoring ancestors who turned oppression into flavor, who turned survival into soul. So the next time you taste mac and cheese or sweet potato pie or that perfect piece of fried chicken, remember, you're tasting freedom. Now I've got to ask, what meal connects you to your roots? What dish tells your family's story? Drop it below. I'll be reading them all. And if you want more stories about the Black innovation that built America, from music to medicine to the food on your plate, hit that subscribe button. Next time, we're uncovering the Black scientists who revolutionized medicine but never got the credit. You won't want to miss it, because food isn't just history, it's heritage.